Hello, everyone. Let me introduce myself by saying I am Miss Shanika R. Williams. I am a current adjunct speech instructor at the wonderfully historic Wallace Community College, Selma. I have a Master's of Science in Strategic Communication. I have several other degrees dealing with communication, information sciences. I also have another bachelor's in human development and family studies, which is human environmental sciences. And right now I am at the wonderful University, Auburn University at Montgomery as a first year EDS student within the Instructional Technology EDS program. So, as an instructor of adult learners and as an adult learner myself, I'm going to take everything that I have learned within like the past 11 to 12 years of my adult education and compact it into this wonderfully colorful and also very informative and interactive presentation entitled The Process of Adult Learning. So we got a few objectives that we're going to go over, but we're going to get right into this presentation. As I mentioned before, I think I'm more than qualified to kind of discuss specifically what adult learners need, how they learn, and how they're going to fit in this new 21st century innovative classroom and professional format that we have here within the last decade of the 2010s of everything that has been going on within over the last decade. So the objectives we're going to go over today is andragogy. Who sounds like a funny word, is actually Greek. But we're going to discuss what specifically is that. Pedagogy versus andragogy. Who wins in that battle? I know that sounds like the next Transformer movie title, but I promise you it's not. Next, we're going to go over adult learning in the 21st century and how that differs and what goes on specifically in the 21st century classroom than what went on 10, 15, 20, even 30 years ago. And lastly, I'm going to explain to you how you learn. That's right. I'm going to tell you how you learn as an adult learner. How do you learn? So now we're here discussing what is andragogy? Who is that? What is that? What is going on here? Now, this term, again, it is Greek. Sounds like a very complex term, but I'm going to help you out. This term is applied to all adult learners. As adult learners, we have a very specific learning process that differs from that of a child. When we were child, there are specific ways that we learn certain things about the world around us. And now that we're adults, everything has to be retrained and flipped again in the brain because now everything is more solidified within our mind. But to kind of slow down here, Michael Noel Shepard, was a profound American educator. He passed away in 1997. He is credited for coming up with this term andragogy and teaching andragogy, which is about the adult learning process. So if you hear the word pedagogy, think about anything, pediatrician, anything dealing with children. Andragogy, anything dealing with adult learners. Adult learners have very specific needs that need to be met in any classroom environment or professional setting. Now, the term pedagogy, again, I'm going to go over that in the next slide. Like I mentioned before, this strictly deals with the learning process of children. Now, typically when we think of education, we do think of K through 12 schools, and that's where pedagogy comes in. And yes, that even applies to our middle school and high school learners. Their brains aren't fully developed yet until they turn about 25. So, according to the state of Alabama, you're not a legal adult until you turn 19, and that you go to a pediatrician up to your 19 to 21. So yes, a pedagogy does apply to our middle school and high school learners, but they kind of have a step up. But I'm not going to really go over that during this presentation. Now, as I mentioned before, as an adult learner myself and someone that teaches adults, we have very complex needs that have to be met within a classroom environment of the professional settings. Now, especially and for you all out there that have ever taught distance learning classes or you're a student in a distance learning class, you know there are specific measures and certain standards you have to meet in order to be enrolled in higher ed institutions and higher ed educational programs. And kind of that strain that virtual classrooms or physical ones can put on your life as an adult. Hey, you have kids, You have a family, whether it's big or small. You have bills, taxes, groceries you have to cook, on and on and on and on and on. You have different needs now as an adult learner that has to be met. And you want your education to tailor to your needs. That's the difference between andragogy and pedagogy. And I'm going to go over that in the next slide. As an adult learner, you want your education to tailor fit you. Versus with children, we end up trying to tailor fit the child for whatever educational process is going on in the classroom. Now, as an adult, you never stop learning. One of my favorite sayings that I oftentimes say, the only thing or the only person that can't learn anything is a person or a thing that is deceased. We never stop going through the learning process, but now that we have learned our basics of how to walk, talk, how to eat, how to go from point A to point B, now that we learn all of these things that, will never really go away, gross motor skills, fine motor skills, we are learning more complex concepts, terms, and ideas as we age in our lives. And now our brain uses that information in a completely and totally new way than we did as we were a child. Think about middle adulthood as like a second puberty. Sounds strange, I know, but trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. Pedagogy versus andragogy. Who wins? To be honest, and to answer that question for you, no one wins. It's not a battle. But pedagogy, as defined by Merriam-Webster.com, is the art, science, or profession of teaching. Again, anyone says anything about teaching education, we automatically go K through 12, or as they say, pre-K through 12, or certain early childhood programs, which I was an instructor at one of those programs. We think about that and we think about children and how they learn. As I mentioned before, pedagogy is strictly dealing with child learners, and pedagogy studies the child's learning process, but also the child's development and how they become whatever specific learner they're going to become as they begin to age. Again, this deals with the child learner in and of itself, the actual brain, how the brain is developed for children, and also early childhood development on how that child will become or what specific learner that child will become. Your attachment style that you have as children does factor into how you learn as a child, which now factors into how you learn as an adult. Now, the good thing about adults, and I'm sure we're all happy about this, and we like to think fondly about our childhoods as if we never thought this way or never did that. As adult learners, we think in construct and abstract terms. We can infer, we can have critical comprehension. Children, on the other hand, think of terms and think of the world around them in black and white. Things either are or they aren't. There are no gray areas. We have to teach them how to critically infer on certain things. They have to be taught how to comprehend certain things. As adults, and we learn how to do that, we can read in between the lines. We can read verbal and nonverbal communication. Also, we're able to have a certain level of discernment as adults. Children, they have to be taught that. Now, this may be an old fact, but it's true. From ages 5 to 11, while a child is going from a pre-operational stage to a more concrete thinking stage, again, that goes back into early childhood development, children have about 75% brain elasticity, especially around age 7. 75%. Now, of course, that could have changed within the last few years, but they have more brain elasticity. What I mean by brain elasticity, your left lobe of your brain and your right lobe of your brain controls the other half of your body. With children, they actually have nerves that connect from one lobe to another and also connect within the reward center. That information is able to freely flow from one lobe to another. Sounds really crazy. It sounds like I'm dealing with spaghetti or something. I promise you I'm not. With this, as we age, things become more concrete in the left and right lobe. As children, again, these think about information as if it was boats. And you have to dock your boat in a specific place in a specific way to make sure that it doesn't drift off to sea. Well, with children and the way they learn information, a piece of information are boats, and the boats can freely go different places within the dock. But then again, as we age, we have to learn that these pieces of information become anchored down in various places within our brains. Now, please note that dealing with synaptic clefts or nerve endings, which fire off every time a child receives any type of form of information, reprimand, praise, anything, they are not fully developed, and their brains won't be fully developed until age 25. Also, during puberty, whenever the onset of puberty is, synaptic clefts that are no longer deemed useful in the brain die. So, as human beings, all the synaptic clefts we're ever going to use, all the nerve endings that we're ever going to use are already cemented in our brain, and our brain cells do not regenerate anymore. Now, again, children think in more concrete terms. They have to be taught to infer and critically comprehend and think abstractly about possible scenarios concerning the world around them. Now, although pedagogy and andragogy seem worlds apart, they're actually more closely than you realize. However you learn and grew as a child predestines and dictates now how you learn and continue to grow and develop as an adult learner. Are there ways to change this if you did not necessarily learn in ways that you were able to understand as a child? Yes, there are ways that we can bypass this, but it takes a whole other thing going on. And again, we're going to go over that later on through this presentation. Adult learning in the 21st century. We have so many technological advancements that help the 21st century adult learner. But it takes more than multimedia presentations and different gadgets and such to make sure that an adult learner's education is worthwhile. Adult learners self-direct themselves. They bring in their life experiences and knowledge that they already have within the learning environment. Children do not have anything to necessarily draw upon until they get of a certain age. We as an adults, we learn through the experiences we've already gone through in our lives. Adult learners are goal oriented. Everything has to be relative with the adult learner. Everything has to make sense. If it doesn't apply to me, I don't think it's relevant to anything that I'm doing, has no form of relevancy within my life or where I plan to go within my 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan or to age of retirement, we reject any information that has no relevancy in our lives. And again, adults are practical. We think in practical, concrete, intelligent terms. Children are more imaginative. They can shape their own reality by what they see, by what they want to happen. But again, it's not anchored in anything concrete until they learn about that later. Now, adult learners, we're not entirely dependent upon our instructors. Our instructors are able to give us information. We take that information and learn about it how we will and apply it in the way that we deem suitable. Children, when they learn their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, it has to go in a system. 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, E. Everything has to be systematic. With adults, it has to be systematic with us. But again, we take the information that we learn and then we make what we need out of it. Higher ed institutions are going about right now making way for the working adult learner to make sure that they're able to get their education and have their cake and eat it too. That their education is not interrupting their lives, and we make sure we place safeguards. And I can speak from my experience as being an instructor that their lives don't necessarily interfere with their education. Their education doesn't necessarily interfere with their lives, and we have to create a peaceful balance between the two. And that's what higher ed institutions are actually doing with coming up with incentive scholarships to make sure that we have adult learners coming in and making sure that we have them come and take certain classes that they need in order to achieve the next goal in their lives. Also, with the adult learner, and this is different from the college age student, where they're able to graduate high school and immediately their next career goal is specifically go to college. They go to adult learning as well, but specifically with adult learners of a certain age that have careers, family, and decide that they want to finish their education or go back to school for the first time. Now, in this last stretch of this presentation, I'm going to discuss how you learn. Now, in case you don't know, standardized testing does not test for 7 to 8 different forms of intelligences that we as the human race can be gifted with. You can have all 8, you can have 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, but there's 7 or 8 different forms of intelligences: language, arts, history, mathematics, analytical thinking skills. That standardized testing does not check for. Something to think about, huh? How you learn is equivalent to what you learn. And know that if you're a visual learner, tactile, auditory, or combination of learning styles, this now influences how you will continue to learn as you live. Know that your reality shapes your destiny. As adults, you don't like your destiny right now, shape your reality, change it. And finally, I will leave you with this. Take your What's Your Learning Style assessment to see how you learn. And then this is going to begin to shape your destiny as an adult learner. Thank you so much for tuning into this presentation. I hope you all have enjoyed. See you next time.